Welcome to beautiful Southport, North Carolina. I'm Tim Boehm. Thanks for joining us for Preserving Frying Pan Tower. About a month ago, I dropped this picture on social media saying we're going off the grid for a story for a couple days. And a lot of you responded and said, please tell me it's Frying Pan Tower. There's just something about the curiosity and the imagination that placed them 30 miles off the coast. Well, a month later, I can tell you, we indeed went to Frying Pan Tower. 32 miles off the North Carolina coast, where the sun glitters like gold, a study in contrast. Timeless views from a place where time seemingly stands still, but the rusted roots below prove time is running out. Safe from the stress of life on shore, but danger lurks around every corner. The isolation is at the same time glorious and terrifying. Perhaps no place on Earth like this place, Frying Pan Tower. A government lighthouse that saved countless lives, but now better known perhaps for its rust. A vital Coast Guard beacon in the 60s and 70s, largely abandoned in 1979. But saved by a man named Richard Neal, a Charlotte man who bought it through a government auction in 2010. Woo! Send me up! He's the kind of guy everyone calls a character, the kind of guy you just have to meet. Naturally, we had to meet him and hear the story firsthand. But we quickly learned very little goes according to plan on Frying Pan Tower, and that held true as soon as we arrived.
Take your time, there's no rush.
A story months in the making, potentially a bust, in a matter of minutes, when Richard was forced to leave.
If you look straight out, there is a little black speck on the horizon.
There are two ways to reach Frying Pan Tower: an hour-and-a-half boat ride on a good day, or a 25-minute helicopter ride from Southport.
Well, we're crossing over Bald Head Island now. That's their little marina.
It's a Chamber of Commerce sunny North Carolina day. Cargo ships leaving port, and bright sunny skies hover over the ocean as far as the eyes can see.
This is where the Frying Pan Shoals begin, so this is relatively shallow water until you get out to the tower, as in, never deeper than 50 feet tops, which is not quite enough for these big ships to navigate. And there are places where you'll see little islands out here sometimes at low tide.
The area known as the graveyard of the Atlantic because of those shallow waters, the exact reason why Frying Pan Tower was built by the Coast Guard. It's a famous North Carolina icon, though technically it's not even in the United States.
International waters, we're out of the U.S. airspace.
Almost as soon as we took off, we could see it. That tiny little black dot way off in the distance. Yep, that's Frying Pan Tower. We lucked out with incredible weather, but it's not always that way. Landing on a tower in the middle of the ocean is, well, unique.
I've gone out there and it was 46 knots gusting into the high 50s. So, you're looking at 60 miles an hour plus winds. Wow.
But not an issue today. As the minutes pass, the black dot gets closer and bigger.
Frying Pan Tower, helicopter high tide 1.
And minutes later, we land.
It looks like it's holding us. One more day.
7 of us flew in on 3 flights. This woman, Clara, and her daughter, Evelyn, from Washington, who are here to volunteer, myself and my photographer, John, and co-owner Craig McCotter and his 2 kids. We are eager to see and hear it all. But as soon as we land, the helicopter takes off back to shore with Richard in it. A victim of food poisoning, and we have no idea if we'll see him before we have to leave.
Welcome to Frying Pan Tower.
As the chopper left, we headed downstairs, and the isolation quickly comes into focus.
Should an emergency happen and we need to contact everyone all at once, we're going to hit here. There's an alarm right here. We will muster here. Josie, if you can, get the alarm sound for them. So if you hear that alarm, everybody will come here. And what we'll actually do is that tells us that something's occurred. Usually, the only time that's going to occur if a person has fallen overboard or something major accident has occurred.
Down the hall, we see how they get power for the 5,000 square feet inside, some 32 miles from shore.
We're completely off the grid. We have no electrical power out here. Everything we have out here, we have to make. So what that basically means is we have to make our own electrical current, make our own water. Everything has to be made by us. We currently have 2 solar panel banks. We have one on the north side and there's one on the south side.
Believe it or not, they normally have internet via a microwave signal. But remember how nothing goes according to plan? Well, the day we got there, we found out it was down too. Only emergency radio communications would work during our time there.
Everybody asks about the water that we have here. So up on the flight deck, there's 2 massive drains. What the drains actually do is they collect all the water from the flight deck and drain into massive tanks underneath the tower.
There's also a dive room, a fully stocked fishing room, and even a pool table dating back to the Coast Guard days in the 60s.
So this is the rec room, and one of our favorite games at night is this right here. Jess, you want to do it on the first try?
I probably can't.
All right. First try, Josie.
Appreciate them scares.
Around the corner, a kitchen with original steel cabinets, and down the hall, something else original.
We do have a washer and dryer. This is the washer and dryer from 1965. It still works the same, so as a result, we still keep it.
Down another dark hall, there's a fully equipped bathroom and a number of bedrooms where we'll sleep, much like the Coast Guardsmen who stayed here in the 60s.
This is actually the original Coast Guard beds. They haven't changed at all. The original Coast Guard furniture hasn't changed at all. We often joke saying that it's so old, it's actually now back in style.
The United States Coast Guard operates over 300 light stations.
Coast Guard lighthouses were built and manned to protect ship navigators, desperately needed here on Frying Pan Shoals, part of the graveyard of the Atlantic, an unusual area of water far out to sea in the shape of a frying pan, and in some places less than 10 feet deep.
Frying Pan Shoals runs this way here. It runs about 30 plus miles to the tip of Bald Head Island. The reason why this whole unit is here is to protect ships. You are far, far away from land. However, the water out there can be as shallow as 6 to 8 feet deep in some places. So a big ship can actually come through here and think that they're falling off offshore. Next thing you know, they run aground. There's so many shipwrecks out there, they can't even count the number that are out there.
In 1854, the U.S. Coast Guard placed a lightship here. For 110 years, minus the Civil War and World War II, it acted as a lifesaver. Until late 1964, when this modified oil drilling platform was built.
They had a full-time crew out here from 1964 until the late 70s. As a result, there was always a crew out here working 24/7, 7 days a week.
But in 1979, an automated light replaced the need for a crew out here. And eventually, GPS technology replaced the need for it altogether. It was largely abandoned as the wind, water, and salt began to eat away bit by bit. In 2010, the government put it up for auction, and a man named, you guessed it, Richard Neal bought it. A wild story. We hope to hear from him in the coming days if he makes it back.
You good there?
Like many of us, time and age are catching up with Frying Pan Tower.
There's a few parts of the tower that it's safe to walk, and places it's not safe to walk. As you can see, this is some of the original beams. They are completely rusted through. As a result, we have been replacing the beams with these beams. So this is one of the projects that's always going on. Without doing this, what will happen is this catwalk will eventually just fall in. So this is some of the restoration work that has to constantly go on just to make all this not fall in the ocean.
You think that's bad?
These stairs are pretty old, they're pretty rusty, so be one at a time.
Under the tower, the foundation of sorts.
We call this the belly of the beast. One of the things about it is it's the part of the tower that gets the most exposure to salt air and never has fresh water hit it because no rain comes down here. So all the salt mist has completely destroyed all the infrastructure down here. One of the major projects that we're working on is trying to raise enough money so that we can restore a lot of these beams. Most of this area, as you can see with the catwalks over here, we've had to completely just condemn. It's completely unsafe, unable to be used whatsoever.
Look at this old spigot that looks like it would turn to dust with a touch. As the afternoon rolls on,
Okay, you ready to go?
I think so.
Put your way out there.
We go down the hoist, one by one, to experience the water up close. If you're afraid of heights, probably not your cup of tea. They want us to see sharks that call the tower home, but they are apparently shy this afternoon.
You got a fish?
Woo! Woo! We soon find out dinner is in the ocean, and we fish some 80 feet above the water.
Mom, why did you release the line?
And we start to get to know each other, including Clara Wang and her daughter Evelyn, here to volunteer and find adventure. They are from Washington, and she found Frying Pan Tower during a random search on the internet.
I like travel. I personally like travel, but my husband is more settled down, couch potato at home. But I try to get them out,
Well, this is definitely out.
Yeah.
Claire and her daughter will help with restoration work this week, too. But in the meantime, we are fishing for dinner, and I soon learned Clara was about to experience a first in her entire life.
Oh my God! I got one!
Have you done much fishing before?
No!
Another sea bass. Have you caught a fish before?
No.
You've never caught a fish in your life?
When I think back, it is no. But I myself never. Oh my God. See that?
What an experience, right?
Oh. And it's coming by myself, nobody
You did it all.
guided me.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm going to cut it all the way down to the spine. Then we turn our knife.
After the fish are cleaned, we cook our dinner and sit down like family. Chance to get to know our now tour guide, co-owner Craig McCotter.
So a few of us decided to go ahead and buy into it, mainly just to help take some of the pressure off of Richard. And that's exactly what we've done.
In 2018, after spending most of his savings on the tower, Richard Neal realized he needed help and decided to sell shares. Wilmington cardiologist Craig McCotter, now one of 10 owners, didn't think twice.
And so I jumped at the chance to buy into
I was
it.
going to say, you make it sound so simple, but it's a lot of time, money, and effort.
It is. It's a lot of time, money, and effort.
So what drove you to that, though? Like,
the big thing is growing up on the coast of North Carolina and seeing this tower my entire life. There's no way I could let this tower ever fall in the ocean.
When Richard divested ownership, a nonprofit was created, and Richard now works for the nonprofit. He's still the heartbeat, the crazy man who brings this piece of rust to life.
Got my head on straight, we're good. So we're gonna go and take a closer look at the waves which are down there.
Richard originally envisioned an adventurous bed and breakfast, but the vast and expensive needs to fix this piece of history meant a more urgent need to focus on volunteers in addition to ecotourism.
One of the biggest things we're faced with, the structure of the tower, below the tower, has been damaged from 60 years of seagulls and salt water and hurricanes, everything else. There's a lot of companies that work on towers, but they're all located in the Gulf because they support the oil industry. We've contacted them and said, can you help repair our tower? And they're like, we could if you're in the Gulf of Mexico.
Volunteers are vital, but unique visitors fill up the calendar too.
Swimsuits, activate. Light.
The biggest thing we have right now is all the YouTubers that come out here because it's so unique that when they come out here and have an adventure.
What's up guys, Brandon J. Today we're gonna be doing a fishing challenge at the world's most dangerous hotel.
We're spending the next 24 hours at the world's most dangerous hotel.
Some of the videos have more than 10 million views.
People say it's the most dangerous hotel in the world, and technically it probably is, but it's not really a hotel, but people like to call it that because they come in here and they stay. But it's probably one of the most dangerous structures in the world that a private citizen can come to. And it definitely is true. There's multiple ways to die out here.
It's true. You have to keep your guard up, and there's always a need for a fix. Remember, on this trip, the internet is down, so little to no communication with land. And at least once, Craig and his son had to manage problems with solar power and the generator.
So we'll go ahead and shut off the main power breaker. Go to solar, power back up, and we're completely on solar.
Richard Neal documents much of it for his Facebook fans.
Well, it's early. It's about 5:30. I've been up for about 30 minutes trying to troubleshoot some electrical gremlins.
That's tame, though.
So if you have a little bit of claustrophobia, you might not like this so much.
This is him in a water tank, hunting down a rusted hole, seeping out drinking water back into the ocean.
I've got about 1.5 feet of clearance. It's not bad.
That's why these volunteers are so important. They come out for a mix of adventure and work. This week, Claire and Evelyn help build bunk beds and put up ceiling tiles. But folks like welders, those volunteers are priceless.
extra I-beams to fill in for the rusted I-beams. Because the rusted ones are, oh my dang, rusted.
And the goal goes beyond restoring the past, but creating a future, and even now renewed partnerships with the government and other training groups.
The tower still functions as a training platform for multiple different groups. We had skydivers out here not too long ago that were practicing for different things.
What a flyby! That was rocking!
Yes, there's been other government agencies that have been on here to practice and train. Again, it's a most unique situation that pretty much is hard to replicate throughout the world.
Richard has even more incredible stories about working with scientists and the government. Again, stories we hope to hear soon. As dinner ends and the sun sets, one of those sunsets you'll brag to friends about forever, we head up on the flight deck to see one of the most incredible sights the eyes will see. 32 miles away from the lights of society, more stars light up the sky than you can imagine. Morning brings a jaw-dropping sunrise with 360-degree views. It's unusually calm again as we stare alone in our thoughts, just a cargo ship passing by in the distance to keep you company with that cup of coffee. It's a peaceful start to the day, but things are about to ramp up in a hurry.
Don't know there's like 6.
The tower's become its own ecosystem for sharks and fish below that call it home. It's amazing to see from above or on the hoist, but we wanted to see it below. It doesn't take long to see massive schools of fish and a few big ones to say hi to our camera. Then after a little bit to our delight, the sharks. Some saying hi, others just hanging out at the bottom.
I just did a dive. The sharks are incredible. I'll put them on here. Here, you'll see them next.
But the most incredible views come from Richard and his fellow diver friends, who swim right along with them, going to clean the cameras below, even in an attempt to grab a tail.
I told you, some beautiful sharks down there. We did some work.
But it's not just sharks. Massive sea turtles and groupers stop by from time to time. It's mesmerizing to watch below, but we are about to be surprised even more up top.
Frying Pan Tower use, that's Coast Guard vessel off the Frying Pan Tower.
Good, Captain.
Anything we can help you guys with today?
No, sir. We're just made a run out here on a nice day. Take a look. We'll be headed to the atmosphere.
Well, we're about to serve lunch here in 15 minutes. You got some crew that want to come eat lunch?
That sounds great, Captain. How are you going to get to us?
You come up here, we'll hoist you right on up.
We gotta get.
Give me a quick call and we'll get back to you, Captain.
Remember, the Coast Guard hasn't been on the tower regularly since 1979. This is a rare, if not historical moment.
We've never seen this before. This would be awesome.
Yep, we got the go-ahead, so we're going to get ourselves ready and we'll send a couple up there. Roger that. We'll be ready for you with the hoist. Thank you.
Minutes later, 3 young Coast Guardsmen come up on the same hoist we used.
What it is, we can get you up here, you can bring up your feet, we'll bring you inside. All right.
Bring up your feet. Put up your feet. There you go. Awesome job.
Fantastic.
We get you inside. Go ahead and hop off.
They peppered Craig with questions about how much weight the hoist can carry and how big of a helicopter the flight deck can support. After a quick tour and lunch, they walk out on the flight deck. Perhaps the first time in decades for the Coast Guard, an incredible sight.
The escape stairway in the interior of the structure. Note the failed treads in railing and stairway treads below, as well as the severe deterioration to all of the access catwalk.
Ironically, things have not dramatically changed since 1979, proven by this 2010 pre-auction inspection video commissioned by the Coast Guard.
All the bedrooms are along the west side of the structure.
You can really see how time stood still in the bedrooms, where a magazine from long ago remained on the dresser.
We appreciate this.
Hi, man.
Good to meet you, man.
And as quick as they appeared, the Coast Guardsmen had to leave, although talks of training here again lingered in the air. As the Coast Guard boat headed back toward shore, a dive boat arrived with supplies.
As soon as they get it hooked up, you thumbs up and start the winch.
The only way to get stuff on the tower is helicopter or boat, and a helicopter can only hold so much weight. So a dive friend with a boat delivered a very important need a mattress in a box.
It's quite a bit of work for a mattress, huh?
Yeah. That's what you have to do. You can't just run down and throw it in the back of your truck and bring it here.
If that's not enough, the boat captain has to tie the boat to a buoy because the current and waves would rock the boat up against the tower and crush it. He must then swim over from the boat to the hoist with a few friends trailing.
Hey, Steve, you got about 60 barracuda behind you.
I know.
The divers also delivered something else. Freshly caught spiny lobsters. Bet you didn't even know we had them off our coast. Look at the size of them compared to my shoe in this picture. Needless to say, there was plenty to go around at the dinner table this night. Quite the meal in isolation off the grid, some 32 miles from shore. With a full belly and more stargazing on the horizon, we head off to bed. Tomorrow our helicopter comes to get us, but storms are coming too. And we are still desperate to spend some time with the one and only Richard Neal. As a new day dawns, the almost eerily calm past 2 days are long gone. Storms are coming later, and a stray shower near the coast is delaying our ride home. While we wait, co-owner Craig McConnor gives us a glimpse of some unique recreational opportunities.
Sounds about like what my normal golf game sounds like. Thud!
Oh, nice shot.
Wow.
You can follow through.
Oh, you wanted me to record that one?
A unique driving range with eco-friendly golf balls that dissolve into fish food. And remember the volunteer Clara who caught the first fish of her life? She shot a gun for the first time too with some skeet shooting.
There you go.
Even yours truly proved everyone gets lucky from time to time.
Please tell me you got that.
It's fun, but the truth is my mind was occupied with the weather and whether Richard would return. We've experienced unusually calm seas, but it's changing quick, and Richard knows that all too well.
The ocean, it's powerful. Don't mess with it.
Just look at some of the videos he's posted over the years.
All right, so we're here on the back side of the tower on the south side. Out of the wind, obviously. It's kind of messing up my hair a little bit, what I have left. But there's some big, big waves down there, and we're going to send this camera down.
The color of the water is mind-blowing, but look at these waves. Then for us, the skies opened up. A helicopter arrives, and out comes Richard Neal.
Hey, man.
Like, oh my God.
I feel like I'm welcoming you to Frying Pan Tower.
We decided to risk potentially being stranded out here another night due to storms by taking the second helicopter, because it gave us an hour to talk with the man and the heart behind this effort to save Frying Pan Tower. First things first, of course. How does a random guy from Charlotte end up owning a Coast Guard tower in the middle of the ocean?
You know, it's really interesting because when you see something that you like, whether or not it's a car or any object, you know, golf club, I don't care, and you just intrinsically like it, you don't really know why. I knew I liked the tower, but I had no idea until a couple years after I had it. Someone said, well, why did you really care about this? And I realized I ended up buying my childhood treehouse. It's just a bigger version. And no termites. Just rust termites.
We've all done it. Surfing the net and buy something we don't expect. Well, Richard was scrolling the internet when he stumbled on a government auction site where it was selling off items after the recession, including Frying Pan Tower. He put in a sealed bin and won. Then he had to tell his wife.
Honey, I really kind of want to bid on this. And she's like, well, don't go over $10,000. I did a little. I went $11,000. Pulled out my wallet, $262, but I was the only one that bid, so I won the auction. And that phone call with the government guy was kind of crazy because his name was Lou. I remember it well. We talked often. I said, Lou, who won the auction? I've got to know. And he says, why, Richard, don't you know you did? And I said, Lou, you're kidding me. And he says, no, Richard, I'm with the government. We don't joke. And I was like, oh my God. He goes, so what you gonna do with it? And I said, I think I better call my wife. And he goes, good luck with that.
He ended up paying closer to $80,000 because of government minimum requirements and had to buy it without an inspection or even seeing it firsthand. He just had to figure out how to get on it.
There was no helicopter service. So I called around and I asked captains, who will give us a ride out there? And they're like, you can't do that, it's too dangerous. You can't get close. There's no ladder on that, you can't get on there. And they didn't know that I was like basically born a climber. But I found a young man who was 21, long blonde hair, and he was like, yeah man, I'll take you out there. I'm like, great. When I started walking down to his dock to get on the boat, he started laughing because I was carrying an extension ladder with big hooks on it. And he pulled up, I climbed it on, and then just kind of climbed up one of the legs, investigated my way on into here, and was like, wow, I felt like I walked right back into 1960.
He was 50 then, 62 now. As you heard earlier, in 2018, after spending most of his life savings on the tower, he sold shares to several others, created a nonprofit, and now works for the nonprofit. He realized he needed help to try and save this place from turning to rust and tumbling over.
The original estimation from the Coast Guard was $1.75 million, but that's government money. And that's also back in, 15 years ago. So a couple $1 million and we would actually be able to put it back together.
As you've seen, Richard's a wild man. But if you're thinking he's some carefree guy, think again. In fact, it's almost like his professional life prepared him for this moment.
I have worked as an engineer, as a chemist, as a draftsman on the Alaskan pipeline, as a industrial hygienist, as a mechanical engineer. I worked for the airlines, had my own construction company, and I did computer software to all the major corporations around the U.S. for a couple decades. Wow. So, you may have heard the old phrase, it's a jack of all trades, master of none. But you might not know the last of that phrase, which is jack of all trades, master of none is yet better than a master of one.
Now, I know you've been dying to hear about hurricanes, and I purposely held off hoping to talk to Richard about it. You might remember the viral sensation when the flag on the tower was streamed during Hurricane Florence in 2018. Hour after hour, it was battered, but stood strong. In the rec room, you can see some other flags that survived hurricanes. Some, like the Florence flag, are auctioned off to raise money for the tower.
Invigorating.
And Richard has spent several hurricanes out here. CNN aired a clip of him in a chair on the deck shirtless during one storm. They interviewed him live during Arthur on CNN back in 2014. The news anchor was clearly not briefed on Frying Pan Tower's history.
This is a Coast Guard light station that the government auctioned off several years ago, and I happened to accidentally win the auction, and so I've turned it into an adventure bed and breakfast, although not expecting it to be this much of an adventure.
Okay, this is not necessarily something I was expecting to hear.
At first thought, it may sound scary. Perhaps, though, it's not all that dangerous. Richard spent several hurricanes out here and will likely spend several more. But the first time, not exactly planned.
The first time I came out here, I was with 3 of my 4 kids and a volunteer, and the helicopter was supposed to pick us up the day before it got really, really violent. And I got a text message on my phone saying, not going, winds are 55 miles an hour, strap in. So I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I turned to my kids and they're like, Dad, is this bad? Are we gonna be all right? And I'm like, it's be great. Everyone got your life jackets, right? We all good? That was Hurricane Matthew or Hurricane Arthur or Hurricane, there's been 3 of them so far. And after the first one, I realized, you know what? It's kind of fun. These waves get about 30 foot tall. There's nothing to hit you but rain. There's nothing flying through the air. And the winds at 100 miles an hour just mean you kind of need to hang on a little bit,
Again, this place is a place of contrast, adventure and relaxation, peace and danger, the past and the future. It's a place, but at the end of the day, it's nothing without the people.
My most enjoyable, pleasant, wonderful, memorable thing was when my 4 kids came out here, and to see them sitting on the railing, watching the sunset going down, and knowing that I had a chance to share that with them. Because no matter what you have, honestly, in life, it doesn't matter if you don't have someone to share it with. And the fact that I got to have them out here for years, and that they still are interested in what's going on, is really great.
A race against time to save a piece of government history, to teach, research, and yes, enjoy for generations to come. For now, our time was up as our ride to shore made it back before the storms. You leave Frying Pan Tower, but the experience, the images, it never leaves you. And that's why Richard and his friends are trying to preserve this North Carolina history before the rust wins and the ocean swallows it whole.